For the last 7 years, Manchester City have dominated the Premier League, winning 5 titles out of the last 6 available. The dominance of the English game has been largely due to the effects of Pep Guardiola, who may be the greatest coach of this generation. Combine that genius with Man City's financial muscle and ability to outspend any club in world football. You have the perfect ingredients to create a football dynasty that is the modern-day Manchester City. The one club that has pushed Man City at every turn has been Klopp's Liverpool. In this era of City dominance, they have managed to win a Premier League title and a Champions League title. So the challenge for the rest of the so-called Big Six of the Premier League was always going to be, how do they penetrate this rivalry and be title contenders as well? It would seem Mikel Arteta has managed to develop a formula to end the dominance of Pep's Man City and Klopp's Liverpool. The Arsenal manager, who was Pep Guardiola's protege, has created a team full of young players that have tons of experience in high-pressure situations already. He also keeps improving the squad with quality players with every passing window. Is Arsenal perfectly positioned to dominate the next decade of football? In the recent 5 years, Arsenal have been very deliberate in acquiring quality players to improve their squad and subsequently their ability to compete in the Premier League consistently. They have recruited the likes of William Saliba, who was only 18 years old when he joined Arsenal, but showed a promising future even at that early age. They also brought in Martin Ødegaard, who had been at Real Madrid for the past 7 years prior to joining the Gunners at a still tender age of 22. He has subsequently developed into a key member of the squad and club captain, with his prime years still very much ahead of him. These are just 2 examples of the blueprint that Edu and his recruitment team are working with to ensure a sustained assault on the most important titles in world football. The idea behind the strategy is quite simple actually, creating a team with a young core of players that will either blossom together into world-class players at Arsenal, thereby improving the Gunners' standing in world football. One such example is Gabriel Martinelli, signed from a 4th-tier Brazilian club at a tender age of 18 for only €6 million. He has developed into a mainstay of the Arsenal attack and one of the first names on the team list. He may not be world-class yet, but he is well on his way to be a top-class footballer. Inversely, if the players don't work out at Arsenal, they are still considered sellable assets, mainly because of their already identified talent and their obvious age profile. Case in point, Albert Sambi Lokonga, who is currently on loan at Luton Town. The Belgian was signed at a young age by the Gunners, already proven to be a talent at Anderlecht, but for some reason couldn't find his footing in the Arsenal midfield. This season, plying his trade at Kenilworth Road, he has once again reminded everyone why Arsenal signed him in the first place. Still aged only 24 years old, Arsenal are poised to make a significant profit on him if they decide to sell. This type of business ensures that the Gunners will be making minimal financial loss even on signings that do not work out at the club. Long term, this will save Arsenal significant amounts of money that can be later reinvested into improving the squad. Additionally to signing young players, the Arsenal recruitment team has prioritized players that were already experienced. Players that have already played high-pressure games were playing consistently for their previous clubs. This meant that they had already developed the type of mentality required to compete for titles and play under enormously stressful games that will challenge your mentality constantly. Players like Kai Havertz, who had already played and scored in a Champions League final at the age of 22. Kai has had his highs and lows in his short career so far, from the highs of being one of the most coveted players in world football back in his Leverkusen days, to the lows of being one of the players scapegoated as the reason for Chelsea's downfall. These situations play a huge role in developing the mentality required to be a professional player playing at a high level. Similar to him, Arsenal recruited Declan Rice, who has been a staple for the Hammers for years before moving to North London. During his time at West Ham, he had been involved in many different pressures, whether it's the lows of being involved in a relegation scrap or the highs of lifting the UEFA Conference League. He has shown over the years that he is ready to take the next step in his career by moving to a bigger club with title ambitions. The examples of such signings made recently by Arsenal are endless. For years prior to Arteta's arrival, Arsenal were commonly referred to as soft and mentally weak. Teams tried to bully us at every turn because they knew they could not compete technically with the skilled and talented Wenger teams. This reputation had to change if we were to start competing again. So the recruitment team identified players that were physically and most importantly mentally ready for competing not only in the Premier League but in the Champions League as well. Along with bulletproof mentality, Arsenal had to develop a distinct and identifiable style of play. One thing that many title-winning teams in the recent past have had is a very deliberate and distinct style of play, whether it is Man City's possession-based style or Liverpool's intense high press, or even Leicester City's retro style 4-4-2. All these teams utilize the style that gives them the X factor over their opponents. Arsenal are no different to their counterparts. The Gunners have developed a style of play that combines all the exceptional attributes of City's possession-based system and Liverpool's intense high press. Mikel has found the perfect balance between these two great tactics to build a team that can compete with both these two clubs who have monopolized the Premier League title race for the most part of the decade. This new tactical adjustment from the Gunners has allowed us the ability to compete with both City and Liverpool, with Arsenal still unbeaten by both these clubs in the league so far this season. The Gunners like to dominate the ball and keep pressure on the opponents for long periods of time. Apart from this, when they lose the ball, Arsenal go into this intense press and try to win the ball back as soon as possible. This makes it extremely difficult to play against the Gunners when they get into their rhythm. This means that you have to absorb huge amounts of pressures for long periods of the match just to stay in the game. The Gunners have statistically both the best defense and the best attack in the league so far this season, having scored 70 goals and conceded only 24 in 28 games. Arsenal are currently top of the Premier League with 10 games remaining, which is an indicator that the team is well on their way to winning important titles sooner rather than later. An exciting playing style on its own does not ensure that you will be competing for titles every season. Arsenal will have to keep improving their squad every transfer window to maintain their competitiveness over time. In the recent past, the Gunners have done just that, with the smart recruitments of the likes of Leandro Trossard, Gabriel Jesus and Jorginho to name a few. These were opportunistic signings that may not have been our primary targets, but they were able to improve the quality in the squad. After the highs of last season going toe-to-toe with perhaps the best Premier League team in the past decade, it would have been easy for the Gunners to be comfortable and think they didn't need much improvements in squad depth. But the Gunners were ruthless in the summer transfer window, where they signed Julian Timber, Kai Havertz, David Raya and outbidding Manchester City for Declan Rice, smashing their own transfer record in the process. This was perhaps the biggest statement of intent from the Gunners in recent times, proving that there is a huge shift in mentality from past recruitment regimes. With the next transfer window a mere 3 months away, Arsenal have reportedly started working on some exciting deals for the summer. It is no secret that the Gunners are in a hunt for a striker, a central midfielder and a defender to improve their squad depth and create competition for their strongest starting 11. Players like Alexander Isak, Victor Gyökeres and Ousmane Diamande have been the names linked with the Gunners recently. Now, no deals will be done in March, but it is encouraging for Arsenal fans to once again be in conversations for players that are also wanted by the biggest clubs in Europe. It is setting up to be an exciting summer transfer window for those associated with Arsenal Football Club. Gunners forever.